All right, you think you can get someone to let me down?
I think I kind of like you up there. I'm looking everywhere, man. I'm turning over rocks. I'm digging in people's backyards. I'm peeking in garage doors. I'm never stopping, never stopping.
For 30 years, Danny Koker was born on January 5, 1964, in Cleveland, Ohio, a city built on steel and rock and roll, far removed from the desert glitz of his future empire. His childhood was a unique tapestry woven with two very distinct threads: Greece and gospel. On one side, his family's roots dug deep into Detroit's automotive soil. Most of his relatives punched the clock at Ford Motor Company, meaning the lore of the assembly line and the smell of motor oil were practically in his bloodstream. On the other side was the music. His father, Danny Koker Jr., wasn't a mechanic. He was a musician of significant renown, a baritone vocalist and keyboardist for the legendary Southern gospel group, the Cathedral Quartet. Life for young Danny was often spent on the road, traveling with his father's group or his uncle's outfit, the Rex Humbard Singers. While other kids were playing Little League, Danny was backstage in the auditoriums, absorbing the complex harmonies of close-knit quartets and the raw power of a live crowd. But Cars were the siren song he couldn't ignore. His father, despite his musical pedigree, was the one who lit the automotive fuse. At just 8 years old, Danny received his first motorcycle. For most kids, that means freedom. For Danny, it meant taking it apart and putting it back together, teaching himself the mechanical skills that no classroom could ever provide. The discipline required a specific psychological profile, the patience to diagnose a misfire, the tolerance for bloody knuckles, and an almost irrational belief that he could make something run better than the factory ever intended. This dual existence defined him. He was a Cleveland kid with Detroit blood and a gospel music soul. He learned performance from his father and persistence from the garage. The world just didn't know yet how he would blend these two worlds into a multi-million-dollar empire. With this foundation of music and motors, what path could a young man with a voice and a wrench possibly forge in the middle of the Nevada desert? From body shop to vamped. Las Vegas in the 1990s was the land of opportunity for someone with Danny's specific skill set. He arrived not with a business plan, but with a love for painting cars and making them look mean. He founded Kustoms, initially a humble operation focused almost exclusively on paint and bodywork. The shop wasn't an overnight sensation. Danny and his growing crew worked on word of mouth, turning out high-quality restorations and custom builds for local clients who appreciated his old-school, hands-on approach. But it was the music that gave him his first stage name. Long before he was the Count of counting cars, he was a host of Saturday Fright at the Movies, a weekly syndicated horror show in Vegas. He adopted the persona of the Count, a nod to his love for classic horror flicks and vintage B-movie schlock. It was a gig that kept him in front of the camera and, more importantly, kept his performance chops sharp. He was a natural in front of the lens, with a big personality, a distinctive look, and the kind of authentic charisma you can't fake. He juggled multiple roles during this period. He was a mechanic, a painter, a local TV personality, and a businessman. The shop was growing, but real financial stability remained a moving target. He was building something, even if he couldn't yet see the full shape of the empire. The true turning point came when he invested in a rock club. Count's Vamped, which initially opened in partnership with Mötley Crüe's Vince Neil, became the physical nexus of Danny's two lives. It was a garage for his soul. By day, he was covered in Bondo dust. By night, he was on stage or in the crowd, listening to the hard rock and heavy blues that fueled him. This was the foundation of the double life. He was building Count's Kustoms into a respected shop while simultaneously creating a venue where his other passion could breathe fire. He was a husband to Danny Koker, a business partner who would eventually manage the band and help run the empire behind the scenes. The world saw the mechanic. Vegas locals knew the rocker. But a local TV gig and a successful rock bar weren't enough to build an automotive empire. What happened next changed the entire equation. Pawn Stars opens the floodgates. The breakthrough arrived from an unexpected direction. The producers of Pawn Stars needed an expert. When a seller rolled up with a vintage motorcycle or a classic car that needed appraisal, the guys at the gold and silver pawn shop were out of their depth. They needed someone with instant credibility, a guy who looked like he'd been born under a hood. They found Danny Koker. His appearances on Pawn Stars were electric. Here was this towering figure with a bandana and a sleeveless shirt, rattling off specs and values with the authority of a man who had turned every bolt himself. The endorsement from the History Channel's flagship show sent a surge of new eyes toward Danny's world. The audience loved him. He wasn't just appraising cars, he was appraising them with a rock star's swagger. The response was so overwhelming that it didn't just validate his expertise, it demanded a spin-off. By August 2012, Counting Cars premiered, and the dynamic shifted from local legend to national phenomenon. The show documented the daily operations of Count's Kustoms, following Danny and his loyal crew, Kevin, Horny Mike, and the late Great Rolly, as they bought, restored, and flipped iconic American metal. The combination of Danny's magnetic personality and the stunning transformations made the show one of the History Channel's top programs. The financial equation changed overnight. While the shop had always been a labor of love, the television income grew large enough to eclipse the daily grind of customer commissions. Reports suggest Danny's salary reached as high as $100,000 per episode, translating to roughly $1.6 million per year from the show alone. He had made the decision that terrifies every small business owner standing at the edge of the spotlight. He let the cameras in, and it paid off in a big way. With millions of viewers now watching him haggle over Camaros and Cadillacs, the obvious question emerged. What was Danny doing with all that new money and fame? The midnight singer nobody saw. This is where the double life that had been simmering for 30 years boiled over into plain sight, if you knew where to look. Most viewers assumed Danny Koker was a reality star who dabbled in music on the side. The truth was the exact opposite. He was a musician who had a reality show about his day job. While Counting Cars filmed during the weekdays, Danny would often fly out on weekends to perform with his band, Counts 77. The band wasn't a vanity project cobbled together after he got famous. It was formed at a jam night at Count's Vamp, born of the instant chemistry between Koker, guitarists John Zito and Stoney Curtis, bassist Barry Barnes, and drummer Paul DeCibio. The name itself is a tribute to the 1970s, the decade whose hard rock, blues, and heavy metal influences define their sound. This is the gap between audience perception and reality. Viewers see Danny as the Count, the car guru who barks orders and loves American steel. They don't see Danny Koker, the lead vocalist, gripping the microphone stand and channeling the spirits of Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. He writes, records, and tours with a genuine rock band signed to Shrapnel Records, the same label that launched guitar virtuosos. They've released albums like their self-titled debut and Soul Transfusion. The car show didn't create the band. The band used the car show to amplify its reach. When Counting Cars features Count 77 music or shows the crew at a concert, it's not just product placement. It's the seamless integration of a life Danny has been living since he was a kid, watching his dad sing gospel. The television fame gave him a platform to book larger venues and sell more records, but the music feeds his soul in a way that even the rarest Corvette cannot. Performing on stage often brings him a powerful, almost spiritual connection to his father, hinting at a deeper emotional side beneath his tough rock image. If rock and roll was the real passion, how exactly does the financial machine behind the Count actually function? Corey and the Quiet Machine. Understanding Danny Koker's finances requires looking beyond the History Channel checks. The money machine he has constructed with his wife, Corey, contains multiple interconnected revenue streams, each feeding into and strengthening the others. Television production represents the most visible income source. With a salary of approximately $100,000 per episode, the show provides a baseline of multi-million-dollar annual revenue just for showing up and doing what he loves. But smart entrepreneurs don't build their financial houses on television contracts, which can be canceled at the whim of network executives. Danny Koker is a smart entrepreneur. Count's Kustoms function as the heart of the operation. While the TV show features the builds, the shop maintains a robust off-camera clientele. Wealthy collectors and enthusiasts seek out the Count's Kustoms touch, paying premium prices for full restorations and custom paint jobs. The shop employs a dedicated staff of 9, and the work they produce commands high 5- and 6-figure price tags. Then there is the Koker Vegas Empire. Along with his wife, Corey, whom he married in 2015 and who manages the band and the bar, Danny has diversified into brick-and-mortar hospitality. Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill is a thriving Las Vegas venue that serves American cuisine and features live music nightly. It's not just a hangout, it's a revenue-generating asset. Additionally, they own Count's Tattoo Company, a tattoo parlor located inside the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino. These ventures, combined with Count's car tours, which buses fans to see his private collection, create a diversified portfolio that insulates him from the ups and downs of TV ratings. The most misunderstood element of Danny's finances involves the cars themselves. The private collection, which reportedly includes over 55 cars and 70 motorcycles, is often viewed by fans as a sign of unchecked personal wealth. In reality, these vehicles serve dual purposes. They are assets that appreciate over time, especially when restored by a master. They are also content inventory for the show and marketing tools for the shop. Danny has been transparent that some vehicles are sold to make room for new projects, and the collection is a revolving door of automotive history. When combining TV salary, shop profits, restaurant revenue, merchandise sales, and asset appreciation, Danny Koker's net worth is estimated at a staggering $13 million. With a $13 million empire built on rock and restorations, what does the garage of a man with a double life actually look like? The garage full of American dreams. Walk through the Count's Kustoms showroom and you find yourself surrounded by rolling Americana that would make the Detroit pioneers proud. This isn't a collection of modern Ferraris or European exotics. It is a curated selection of the most desirable American and vintage metal ever produced. The collection leans heavily toward muscle cars, hot rods, and classic Cadillacs, a particular favorite of Danny's. You'll find meticulously restored trikes and vintage Harleys that gleam with more chrome than a 1950s diner. There are custom-painted dune buggies that look like they drove straight out of a heavy metal album cover. He has a deep affection for the 1972 Lamborghini Miura, a classic Italian wedge that stands out among the sea of American V8s. The collection isn't just about ownership, it's about preservation. Danny sees himself as a caretaker of automotive history, ensuring these machines run and roar for future generations. In total, he has amassed over 55 cars and more than 70 motorcycles. But unlike a private collector who hoards these treasures behind locked doors, Danny built a business around access. Through the Count's Car Tour and the VIP showroom experience, fans can walk among these legends, take photos, and soak in the history. The shop itself is the ultimate expression of this double life. It's a working garage filled with the cacophony of air tools and the smell of clear coat. But walk into the back office or the showroom, and you'll see walls plastered with signed guitars and rock memorabilia. It is a visual representation of the man's psyche, half garage, half backstage green room. But here is the question that separates casual fans from those who truly understand this world. Is Danny Koker's life as glamorous as the TV edits suggest? The garage full of American dreams. When Danny Koker leans against a freshly painted Cadillac and calls it "my car" on television, an important distinction lurks beneath those words. Is this vehicle his personal property, purchased with after-tax personal income for weekend driving? Or is it a business asset owned by the shop, restored as a marketing tool, and destined for a client or auction? Danny operates his empire through a complex web of business entities. Count's Kustoms is a functioning LLC. The vehicles you see on the show are often inventory, not personal garages. This arrangement is neither secret nor nefarious. It represents standard practice for business owners operating at his level. But it fundamentally alters how viewers should interpret the rock and roll lifestyle presented on screen. A car restored by the Count's Kustoms team for the show serves purposes entirely different from a car bought with personal savings. The vehicle functions as an investment in future content and shop reputation. Its purchase price, the cost of parts, and its employees' labor hours are all legitimate business expenses. When the episode airs and the car is sold, the profit flows back into the business to fund the next, more ambitious build. Danny might personally own only a fraction of the vehicles that rotate through his Las Vegas showroom at any given time. This model does not represent deception. Danny has built a brand. He buys cars, restores them on camera, and the resulting content generates revenue across multiple streams. The vehicles are simultaneously his passion and his inventory. His personal lifestyle, while undoubtedly comfortable and filled with loud guitars and fast cars, is likely far more anchored in the day-to-day operations of his businesses than the thumbnail images and video titles might suggest. The same principle governs the rock band. Counts 77 is a business. They sell albums, they play gigs, they have a manager, Corey. It's a passion project that, thanks to the TV show's platform, can actually operate in the black rather than being an expensive hobby. This is the gap between audience perception and financial reality. Viewers observe a man surrounded by a fleet of classics and assume he spends his days lighting cigars with $100 bills. The truth presents a more nuanced picture. Danny Koker runs a business that happens to involve exotic and classic automobiles. That business is the vehicle that allows him to fund his true double life as a touring rock musician. If the cars are inventory and the TV show is a job, what exactly makes Danny Koker get out of bed in the morning? One engine, two fuels. Rebuilding a 1957 Chevy or a vintage chopper bears little resemblance to modern auto repair. The stakes are higher, the parts are rarer, and the margin for error is non-existent. But for Danny, this is simply the language he speaks. He learned it at 8 years old on that first motorcycle. Consider the ethos of Count's Kustoms. They aren't just fixing dents, they are creating rolling art. Whether it's a full frame-off restoration or a wild custom airbrush job by Horny Mike, every project carries the weight of the shop's reputation. A misaligned panel or a poor paint match could end up on millions of television screens in HD. Danny operates with the confidence of a man who has made every mistake in the book. But he made them 30 years ago, long before the cameras showed up. This same meticulous energy is poured into the band. The sound of Count's 77 isn't an accident. It's a studied, reverent tribute to the 1970s rock Danny worships. Just as he refuses to put cheap parts on a classic car, he refuses to let the band sound like a modern pop act. It's gritty, loud, and unapologetically analog. Danny isn't the world's greatest technical singer, but he is an exceptional performer. He learned from his father that music is about connecting with an audience, whether it's in a church pew or a mosh pit. This combination, the visual artistry of the cars and the sonic assault of the band, constitutes the genuine secret to Danny Koker's remarkable longevity. He isn't just a TV personality. He's a lifestyle brand built on the authenticity of two American dreams, the open road and the rock and roll stage. Which side of his double life do you find more fascinating? The custom cars or the hard rock? What's the most shocking news that you've heard about Danny? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.